Loneliness is spreading like wildfire in our modern world. It's a silent epidemic, often invisible but deeply pervasive. Over 60% of young adults in the UK and nearly half of the US population report frequent loneliness. Loneliness affects people of all ages, backgrounds, and walks of life. We live in a world increasingly designed for individual achievement and digital connection. Yet, these advancements often come at the expense of genuine human interaction. We are social creatures by nature, hardwired for connection and belonging. Loneliness impacts our physical and mental well-being. It's a public health issue with far-reaching implications. Ignoring this epidemic is no longer an option. We must acknowledge the scope of the problem and commit to finding solutions. This requires understanding the multifaceted nature of loneliness. We must delve into its root causes and explore effective strategies for fostering connection in an increasingly disconnected world. Loneliness is often misunderstood as simply being alone. However, this conflates solitude with a far more complex experience. Solitude can be a choice, a time for reflection and rejuvenation. Loneliness, on the other hand, is an unwelcome feeling of emptiness and isolation. It's the distressing gap between the social connections we crave and those we actually have. You can be surrounded by people and still feel profoundly lonely. Conversely, you can find solace and contentment in solitude. Loneliness is not about physical isolation but rather about the subjective experience of feeling disconnected. It's the nagging sense that you're on the outside looking in, unseen and unheard. This feeling of disconnection can manifest in various ways. Some may experience it as a constant yearning for deeper, more meaningful relationships. Others may feel invisible and insignificant, their presence unnoticed by those around them. The common thread is a lack of belonging, a sense of not truly fitting in or being known. Understanding this distinction is crucial. It allows us to move beyond simplistic solutions that focus solely on increasing social contact. Addressing loneliness requires acknowledging the subjective nature of the experience and addressing the underlying emotional needs that are going unmet. To truly grasp the power of loneliness, we must look back at our evolutionary history. Humans are social animals, hardwired for connection and belonging. For our ancestors, survival depended on being part of a group. Isolation meant vulnerability to predators, starvation, and ultimately, death. This deep-seated need for connection is woven into our very DNA. Our brains evolved to release hormones like oxytocin and dopamine during social interaction. These neurochemicals create feelings of pleasure, trust, and bonding, reinforcing our desire to seek out and maintain social connections. Conversely, social exclusion triggers the same pain pathways in the brain as physical pain. This shared neural circuitry highlights the profound impact that loneliness has on our well-being. It's not merely an emotional discomfort, it's a biological signal, urging us to reconnect and avoid the dangers of isolation. This evolutionary perspective sheds light on why loneliness is so pervasive and so painful. In a world where survival is no longer dependent on physical proximity, our brains haven't fully caught up. We still crave the deep connections that ensured our ancestors' safety and well-being. And when those connections are absent, our bodies and minds react accordingly, urging us to bridge the gap. While our biological need for connection remains constant, the social landscape in which we live has undergone a dramatic transformation. Over the past few centuries, we've witnessed a shift from collectivist societies to more individualistic cultures. This shift, while yielding many advancements, has come at a cost: the erosion of social cohesion and a rise in loneliness. The Industrial Revolution, for all its progress, uprooted communities and dispersed families in pursuit of economic opportunities. This geographic mobility, while offering new possibilities, weakened traditional social bonds and left individuals feeling increasingly isolated. The rise of cities, while vibrant and diverse, often fosters anonymity and superficial interactions, failing to satisfy our deeper needs for belonging. Furthermore, the digital revolution, intended to connect us, has, in many ways, exacerbated feelings of loneliness. Social media, while offering a semblance of connection, often presents a curated and idealized version of reality. This can fuel social comparison, inadequacy, and a sense of disconnection from the messy, imperfect beauty of real-life relationships. The irony is that as our technological prowess advances, our ability to connect on a deeper human level seems to be diminishing. The very tools designed to bring us closer often serve to isolate us further. trapping us in a digital echo chamber that amplifies loneliness rather than alleviates it. Section 5. The body keeps the score. The dire health consequences of chronic loneliness. Loneliness is not merely an emotional state, it has profound and far-reaching consequences for our physical and mental well-being. Chronic loneliness is now recognized as a major public health concern, on par with obesity and smoking in terms of its impact on our health. Studies have shown a strong correlation between loneliness and an increased risk of developing various chronic diseases. Lonely individuals are more susceptible to heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure, and diabetes. The chronic stress associated with loneliness takes a toll on our cardiovascular system, leading to inflammation and other physiological changes that increase disease risk. Moreover, loneliness weakens our immune system, making us more vulnerable to infections and illnesses. It also disrupts our sleep patterns, leading to fatigue, impaired cognitive function, and an increased risk of accidents and injuries. The impact of loneliness on our mental health is equally concerning. Loneliness is a significant risk factor for depression, anxiety, and other mood disorders. It can also exacerbate existing mental health conditions, making it more challenging to manage symptoms and maintain recovery. The pervasive sense of hopelessness and despair that often accompanies loneliness can lead to a downward spiral, making it difficult to break free from its grip. Section 6. A cycle of disconnection. How loneliness perpetuates itself. Loneliness is a vicious cycle that's hard to break. Our brains interpret social cues through fear, leading to misinterpretations. We withdraw, deepening our loneliness. This avoidance makes re-engaging harder. Loneliness can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. We may sabotage relationships, confirming our fears. Breaking free requires effort and self-compassion. Section 7. Breaking free steps to combat loneliness. While the statistics on loneliness can feel overwhelming, it's essential to remember that this is not an insurmountable problem. There are concrete steps we can take, both individually and collectively, to combat this epidemic and foster a greater sense of connection in our lives and communities. The first step is cultivating self-awareness. Pay attention to your feelings. Acknowledge when you're experiencing loneliness and explore the underlying reasons. Is it a lack of meaningful connections, a sense of not belonging, or a fear of vulnerability? Understanding the root cause is crucial for finding effective solutions. Next, challenge negative thought patterns. Loneliness often distorts our perception, making us believe we are unworthy of love and connection. Practice self-compassion and remind yourself that everyone feels lonely at times. Challenge negative self-talk, and replace it with more positive and realistic affirmations. Don't be afraid to reach out and connect with others. Join clubs or groups that align with your interests. Volunteer your time to a cause you care about. Engage in activities that bring you joy and provide opportunities for meaningful interaction. Remember that building connections takes time and effort. Be patient with yourself and celebrate small victories along the way. Section 8. A collective responsibility. Addressing loneliness as a public health crisis. While individual actions are crucial for combating loneliness, it's essential to recognize that this is a societal issue that demands collective solutions. We need to create communities that prioritize connection, belonging, and social support. This requires a multifaceted approach involving policymakers, healthcare providers, educators, and community leaders. Governments can play a role by investing in social programs that address loneliness, particularly among vulnerable populations like the elderly, the isolated, and those with mental health conditions. Funding community centers, support groups, and initiatives that promote social interaction can make a significant difference. Healthcare providers should be trained to recognize and address loneliness as a health risk factor. Incorporating loneliness assessments into routine checkups and providing resources for social connection can help identify and support individuals struggling with isolation. Educational institutions can play a vital role in teaching young people about the importance of social connection, empathy, and healthy relationship building. Incorporating these skills into the curriculum can equip future generations with the tools they need to navigate an increasingly complex social landscape. Section 9. Reclaiming connection, building a more inclusive future. The rise of loneliness is a wake-up call, urging us to reevaluate our priorities and value human connection. We need to move beyond digital illusions and foster genuine interactions. Cultivate communities that prioritize belonging, empathy, and social support. Create spaces where people feel safe to be vulnerable and connect. Be present, put down our phones, and engage in meaningful conversations. Reach out to those who are isolated and extend a hand of friendship. Challenge societal norms that contribute to isolation. Create workplaces that foster a sense of community. Design cities that encourage social interaction. The path forward is clear. Reclaim the lost art of connection. Cultivate empathy, compassion, and genuine interest in others' well-being. By weaving a tapestry of human connection, we can create a world where loneliness is a distant memory.